jobs, high oil prices, and a moronic Fed.
Hmm.
What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, March the 8th. And here we are, a week at war, or whatever you want to call it. The war has not been, I guess, officially declared. Jam up in the Straits of Hormuz, exploding oil prices, exploding retail prices, and of course, prices at the pump. Inflation is on the rise. Of course, I don't think it ever really came down. But here we have oil exploded last week, up. Well, let's put it this way: oil is up about 50% in the last 10 days. A move that I don't think can be sustained. A move that I think that is unreasonable, but it is what it is. But yet here we have the Fed discussing potential rate cuts, which were stupid in the first place. And for those who don't remember, the Fed has cut rates 5 times. And of course, the 10-year notes continue to rise. So even with the initial fear pre-war, okay, pre-Iran, we saw interest rates come down back to about 4% in the 10-year notes. And of course, they're now back up to about 4.15. So we see that the actions taken by the Federal Reserve have done nothing to help the people. Okay. We had another very, very weak jobs number, 90 minus a 93,000 number, not to mention the 854,000 jobs adjustment from last year. So we continue to lose jobs. We continue to lose a lot of jobs because companies aren't making money, because companies aren't profitable, because the economy is not flowing. Yes, if you're at the top end of the K, you're having the time of your life, but the majority of Americans are struggling to live day to day. Jobs are going away. AI is replacing them. Now, again, you may love AI. It may be a great tool, and I'm sure it will be. But we're at that interesting point in time where there's not enough people that can use it, and it does take away many jobs. One of the jobs that that is good that we're losing or should be losing is the United States Postal Service. They're out of funds within a year. Look, at the end of the day, we have wasted so much money on the United States Post Office. And who checks their mail anymore? Who gets mail anymore? Who uses mail anymore? Very few. Okay. Yet there are post offices everywhere. Now, I'm not saying to fire all the people that are there. I am saying that they should not hire anybody new. I am saying that they need to start closing offices because they're not needed. When you live in an area that there's 5 post offices within 3 miles of where you live, that's kind of silly. It's kind of a waste of money. And of course, this is our government spending, our government at work. That again, the scam of the government, which we'll talk about more in our commentary, but the government at work, the post office is not necessary anymore. And again, obviously, I don't want to fire all the people that work there, that have worked there for many, many years. I don't want any more hiring. I want offices closed. I want vehicles to be gotten rid of. I want cost cutting. Okay. Until they close the post office because there is no need for the post office. We have other means of delivery for packages and other things. The United States Post Office has outlived its usefulness. We did see oil surge on Friday up to over $91 a barrel. Can this continue? Well, yeah, sure, it can continue. I would suggest to you, though, that if you would take a look at some of the other products that have had these parabolic moves, you will see that everything will eventually outprice itself. We know what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz and Iran trying to control the flow of oil out. But we are the biggest exporter in the world of oil. So doesn't that mean that we could stop exporting our oil and refine it here and use our own oil? So, we get into a lot of these little different debates, which I think are a mistake. We have more oil here. We have enough production. We could survive on current usage. In the United States, there's probably a 300-year supply of oil. Okay. And of course, we now see that California is lifting their mandate against nuclear power, which is again is the real answer is nuclear power. But at the end of the day, we see a big run up in oil, and of course we'll talk about that more in our market commentary. Uh, Trump ready to continue operations until Iranians can't fight any longer. Hey, I have no problem with that. Okay. I have no problem with putting them into submission. Okay. I think that it's a bad area. It's a bad way. It's a bad way of life. And again, I think that we need to take care of, it's an area and it goes along to a lot of the very dangerous things that we see. And I think it needs to be taken care of. The gasoline prices, you want to talk about inflation? Gasoline prices were up 27 cents last week at least. So you're looking at, depending on where you live, somewhere between a 10, a 5 to 10% increase, depending on where you live. Okay, if you live in California, it was a 5% increase. If you live in Texas, it was a 10% increase. But they're giving us the bullshit that Americans' paychecks continue to rise. Well, they may still be rising, but they are certainly not rising at the rate in which inflation is rising. Okay. So again, there's the interesting fact in the way you report numbers, right? The numbers don't lie, but the way that they're reported do lie. And I think we can start with Obamacare, which is one of the greatest scams of all time. And again, you don't think it's a scam, then why doesn't the United States Congress and the United States Senate have to use Obamacare? Okay. Obamacare is a very bad program. The prices have gone skyrocketing, higher ever than private insurance. And again, you should, if you really want to make things affordable, then you should figure out a way to have employers subsidize the insurance like they used to. Okay. I was never a fan of Obamacare and certainly not a fan here. I believe that it should be done through the private sector. And again, like everything else, you have even the president, which you know that I'm a supporter, but even the president is creating because he's trying to talk about cutting limits on pricing, like for example, the price of oil, getting involved. Well, you can't do that. You have to let the free markets trade. Getting involved in the interest rate market. Again, we cannot have government dictating what prices should be. The free market price discovery will determine what prices should be. Okay. I think that, you can see that coming. You can see the problems coming within the credit spreads, which are now widening from corporate credit to, the bond market. Those spreads are much wider, which is indicating that there's a big problem on the horizon. Now, you know that we believe that their markets are overbought. We talked about the Shiller Cape Index, the 302% of 306% of the stock market to the M2 money supply. That's why credit spreads are widening. And that is why they're telling you that there's more risk exposed into these markets. The risk is because we do, first of all, have stopped allowing the free market to trade because if there was risk, the risk would be taken out. But of course, when you try to delay the risk to the market, you continue to make it even worse. And this is the problem when you have it, because again, I think when you want to start talking about manipulating the price of oil, we're already dealing with the manipulating of price of rates. You have the fiat currency system, again, globally, that is the biggest fraud scam in the world that has only allowed the central banks and the Fed to steal money, basically, okay, because they get to print money as needed, and there's no backing against it, so there's no way to say that it's not something. So again, we look at all of these things going, which lead to some very problematic things. And I think that if you would just allow the free market to work, you would find out that things would be a lot better. But we do have issues globally from China to Poland to everywhere. And look, there's going to be a meltdown. And of course, somebody asked me why the markets didn't have a bigger reaction to the war. And I said, well, because again, until the major players are involved in a war against one another, this is just nothing more than an action. So we'll see how it plays out. And lastly, uh, another beautiful thing happened in Minnesota where the state employee who vandalized the Teslas got a 1 day suspension, no jail time. He got caught, did it all. And this shows you what's wrong with our system. Okay. This shows you the problem that we have with the system that we are running right now. I think it's a tragedy. I think it's problematic. I think our government is problematic. I think our politicians are horrible. But again, we'll talk about that more in our commentary. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, March the 8th, and we'll be back right after this break with our market report. What up, kids? Hope everything's well. Hope you had a great week. I know it was a little hairy, especially with the price of oil, but as you know, we have sponsors for the show, and we have a brand new product as well. Well, it's not brand new, it's brand new automated now, which is Gap Hunter. You can see it behind me, and it's great. It makes 3 to 5 trades a day, and they're both on the opening of oil, gold, and the S&P. Boom, those are it. It's done by 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30. All automated through letter of direction through Capital Trading Group, which is one of our sponsors. So check it out. And again, I do have brokerage partners as sponsors. I do have other brokers, just full disclosure. Trader brokerage, the best for options and equities. $10 a month flat saves me over $100,000 a year. Works with all of our automation. Couldn't recommend a better place for that. And of course, the Joy of Mom, which is our new partnership, and we're big investors in a site and a place for moms to go for inquiries and questions and problems and help. And it's unbelievable. We've got about 3 million members, but hopefully you'll check it out. And of course, our high school program, which we continue to try to educate our youth. And let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horowitz, here on March the 8th. Welcome back. Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, March the 8th. And well, markets had a tumultuous week, but really, until Friday, they were doing nothing. They were up a couple of days, they were down a couple of days, they churned, they burned. Now, interesting action on Friday. Uh, we did see the S&P breakdown. We did see the Russell breakdown. We did see the Dow breakdown. And the Nasdaq is still more in consolidation. Now, what does it mean when I say they broke down? They had been in consolidation for months. They broke to the downside now. They have broken through support. Does that mean that Monday we're going to have this massive sell-off? Not necessarily. Again, now what we have to watch for, and if you're trading, what you're watching for now is you're looking for a potential rally back into, for example, in the S&P. If you wanted to get short the market, you would be looking for probably a 60 or 70 point rally in the S&P that failed. So now you're looking to sell on the support. If they continue to go lower, they go lower. That's again, you don't want to chase them down. Okay. I do believe this is the start of that big sell-off we've been looking for. But again, we're not jumping in and saying, hey, you got to sell, you got to sell. Don't panic. Don't try to liquidate anything. You don't have to run away. This will be if we are correct, you will have plenty of opportunity to A, get short this market, and B, make a lot of money. But you can't panic here and you can't chase the market. What you're looking for, if you want to get out of some of your long positions, and I'm not recommending that because I am not, I'm hedged. But if you want to get out of some of your long positions, you want to wait for a rally. You're going to get a rally, maybe Monday. Okay, maybe Tuesday. Again, it really depends, how the active market's open tonight, how they trade tomorrow. But there's a rally coming in here. Okay, so I would wait, and then if you really want to sell, then but don't try to sell and chase it down. Don't be like all the other schmucks that panic out, okay, and run away, and then end up regretting it because, of course, you get the bounce that we're talking about. So at the end of the day, we do expect lower prices. We do expect the markets to go down. but we do also expect a short covering rally here after the end of the week. Thursday, Friday were pretty hairy and a pretty big drop. So we'll see what it looks like in the rest of the markets. The dollar did not quite reach our par point yet to sell. So we're still looking to sell it at par. Excuse me. Euro currency is lower, is breaking to the downside as well. We're still short. Notes and bonds continue to get clocked, which means interest rates are going higher. Again, we keep telling you that, but nobody wants to listen. But your interest rates are going higher. Mortgage rates are not coming down. You hear the story and the bullshit in the news. At the end of the day, it means nothing. Okay. Bitcoin had a nice rally. We were long and we did short. We didn't short. We got out of our Bitcoin on Friday morning. And of course, it's back down into the mid 60s. But again, I think you're stuck in a range. Gold had a nice little rally, but was lower for the week. Again, let's remember if we compared it week to week, gold was down about $100 for the week. Again, I think gold's in consolidation. I think it'll trade both ways. I think you will see some sort of a pullback. Silver also in consolidation. Platinum also in consolidation. So the major metals are consolidating. Look, I think they're going higher long term, but we could sit here solid. And the longer they consolidate based on their trend, the higher, the better the chance they go higher. Copper continues to be stuck as well. We did sell at $6. It did fail there, which is what we thought, and we've been talking about it for weeks. The grain markets continue to run and rally, which again made sense. We're long the grains, which you can see them all breaking out, so that's a good position. We'll probably look to lighten up next week, depending on how the action trades out. The meats continue just to churn. They're just in a range. They're very challenging to trade right now, but we are looking to get to the short side of the meats when it gets time, which is coming here rather quickly. And natural gas has gone back up again and back up to 320. We did get in at 310 and at 280, and now we're nicely charging higher. Crude, we're getting a little bit of a spanking job in crude. We're short from an average of 72, and it's at 90. So again, like I said, but I'm not concerned. I think that again, if you look at any chart and you see these massive moves that go straight either parabolically up or down, especially in the commodity space, I think you can expect some pretty good solid retracement, and I think you'll see that. Again, it doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable, but it is. I do accept it, and I do understand the risk, which is one thing that you should always make sure as a trader. But one of the problems I still see overall in the general markets is volume is better, but lighter than it should be. And the VIX exploded, which normally when you get a VIX like this, you can expect a rally to see as well. So expect a pop, and this is what we'll be looking to sell. So this is kind of the plan going forward. We'll be looking to sell into rallies here. And this is Bubba's Bottom Line's market report. We're going to step out here for our final break and come back with our commentary right after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. What up, kids? Just a reminder, our new product, Gap Hunter, check it out. Our sponsors, Trade Your Brokerage, Capital Trading Group, The Joy of Mom, and our high school program. And of course, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me and my commentary. Welcome back. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, and it's Sunday, March the 8th. And well, we sometimes talk politics, and I think I'm sick and tired of the whole system. I'm sick and tired of watching the politicians, both sides. I don't care whether you're left or you're right, doesn't matter. Okay. Stealing our money, grafting our money out, benefiting hugely, even from this war that's going on in Iran. The defense contractors will benefit hugely, and the politicians who support them will benefit. I think there has to be some dramatic changes. I know we've talked about it before, but I think it has to be more serious now that we need better term limits. I think, again, maximum 2 terms. I mean, if it were up to me, you would have 1 6-year term for every office, and that would be it. I think we have to cut down on the amount of spending that they're allowed to make. I think we have to cut down on on how long the election cycle runs. I think these are problems that are being caused. You want to talk about the debt in this country. Well, a lot of the debt in this country comes from our own politicians who don't follow and live by a budget. Okay, continue to get more money and increase. Now, any of you have ever dealt with government as a salesperson, you know that they spend every dime they can because they want a bigger budget the following year. I think all that needs to stop. Okay, that's the bottom line. Okay, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on because both sides take what ain't theirs. And it's a wonderful model because they have the American taxpayer, you and me, to take care of it. But for us in my age, we're not going to be able to change it. But I think that it has to start somewhere and somebody has to step up and say that we need to change the system because our government doesn't work the way it is right now. Okay, it may be the best there is, but it's not good enough. And we're better than this. And the history shows us if you go back to when the farmers ran the country, they didn't spend their career in office. They did 1 to 2 terms and went back to the farm. And I think we need to mandate that now. I think it's finally time to get to that point because we allow these politicians to become too embedded in the system and game the system. And it's amazing how they come into office with moderate amounts of money and leave office with millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just one man's opinion, just my thoughts. Have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you back here, well, tomorrow with Bubba's Daily Update, and of course, next Sunday with Bubba's Bottom Line. And of course, it is March Madness coming in, and it's Bubba Madness, and we'll see you all later. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you.